Yeah, you mean it's extremely difficult, but you mean there's 30 odd teams in the same boat. So you know what, the one thing that majority of people on majority teams, but I can only really speak for us as the Oilers, the body of work that we have done before this, it's pretty extensive. So we hit pause here around March 12th. We've still been working kind of tirelessly through different platforms to watch these kids on video. Have had some luxury of some of these kids playing. I shouldn't say kids, young men playing, over in Europe has started up in certain areas. So there's still some work to be done. It's just been drawn out a little bit longer, and it's a crazy world right now that we're living in. Yeah, I think everything's, we're open to really anything at this point. 14, we obviously think, I mean, you're still, you gotta, there's 13 picks that you kind of gotta wait to see who goes before you, obviously. But we've got some guys targeted at 14. We've got trade back scenarios. We got trade up scenarios for that matter. We've got our third round pick. We got to let Calgary know by the beginning of the third whether we're going to use that pick or not. So I mean, I think we're going to have some options. We always have options. Whether we act on that, I'm not sure at this stage. Um, once the first round, is over on Tuesday night, we'll reconvey with, the staff and kind of see what's available here going forward and who we could think that might be able to slide into that third round, and whether we make that decision. Probably won't be till the beginning of the third round, but we're going to have some options, obviously, either way. But really, right now, our strategy is to make the pick at 14, and we think we're going to be adding a really good player into the organization. I think you have to be an innovator. We have to try to project on where the NHL is going in 3 to 4 years, and you mean you see now kind of the abundance of smaller players coming into the league and having some success. Does that alter your philosophy? Absolutely. You mean, I think as an organization, not only do we have to adapt and try to project on not only where the league and the game is going to go, but how we want the Edmonton Oilers to look. And obviously, Ken Holland wants his team to look, in a certain way here going forward. So we do have a playbook. We have a plan. We got a blueprint on how we want the Edmonton Oilers to look, and we're going to stick to that. And I think, we're continually trying to adapt to that with the smaller players. I think with the smaller players, at the end of the day, they always have to kind of prove that they can play. And then when they do prove that they can play, I think they become a commodity or an asset for that matter. I think it's just kind of been in human nature where the bigger players, kind of tend to get a little bit more shot, a little bit more opportunity, because you always are intrigued that maybe they can play and they get a little bit more opportunity. But for sure, you mean, you look at the game with the smaller defense. You look what Cale Makar's done and Quinn Hughes has done. The two young kids that aren't the biggest kids in the world, two young men for that matter, that have had really early success. And we're altering that. We're open to ideas. We're not against small players by any means, but at the end of the day, we want to have this team look in the way that our game plan is, in 4 or 5 years from now. The way the Edmonton Oilers look compared to the way maybe Boston Bruins or the Philadelphia Flyers or whoever you want to say, they have different philosophies and different, game plans. But the way that we want to look, we have to take the best player that we deem possible. If that's, we've got areas that we know that we have to improve internally. Obviously, a tie would go to that philosophy to, within the organization. but we're not going to pass on a good player just because maybe we have a luxury of or an abundance of that. You can never have enough centermen. You can never have enough scoring wingers. You can never have enough defensemen. You can never have enough goalies. So at the end of the day, they got to fit in, positional wise. Are you going to take a right-handed shot or a left-handed shot? I think, we look at all that. We put that into part of the equation, but at the end of the day, we're taking the best player and that we deem right now. Not only right now, but we got to project on. We don't want the best player at 18. We want the best player at 21, 22, 23, whatever maturity level and the development growth. We have to draft right. We have to develop right, and we have to be patient with these kids and bring them along and add them to this group that we've got here. And that's our philosophy going in. Yeah, we talk about it internally for sure. We have projections on, this guy, physically, might not be mature enough yet to play. Might take a little bit longer time, but we're prepared for that matter. We do have a window of opportunity right now. We have an opportunity with our young kids coming up that are going to make a big push. It's vital for you to be able to win the Stanley Cup. You have to have guys on entry-level contracts playing, and we're trying to add to that. So the sooner that we can get this player in, now it's a catch-22. You don't want to rush players. Ken, I've worked with him in Detroit for 7 years before coming in here, and his philosophy is never to rush players. They're going to allow us, and they're going to make the decision. They're going to let us know by their play on when they're ready. And I think, it's, Kyler Yamamoto coming up this year, and, Ethan Bear doing what he did, Caleb Jones doing what he did. These kids, they're waiting for an opportunity. I shouldn't say kids, they're young men. They're waiting for an opportunity, and hopefully we're just going to put them in a position where we can for them to succeed. A big part of the challenge, for myself is to be ready for every situation. And the behind the work, the scenes that we do to prepare to that, it's we've got a target at 14. Do we make the pick at 14? I'm not sure yet. We have to figure out what goes 1 to 13 before that. A lot of things happen. I think one of the biggest criteria too is to know the draft well enough to where maybe the industry, and I'm not saying it's right, but to where people have set players to get the most value for your pick. It's not just going up to the draft board and saying, I'm going to be smarter than everybody and we're going to make this pick. It's about maximizing your position. It's a poker game. Without gambling, but you're taking risks. You're trying to maximize the value of the pick or the lack of that picks. We got no second. We got to make a decision on a third. Do we entertain going back and gaining a second round pick and kind of gambling, but knowing that player is there? And if that player is not there, you have to be ready for that next cluster of players. And how far do you go back? You're at 14, you're in a good spot. If you go all the way back to 30, 31, you're taking yourself at a whole another, cluster of players. That doesn't mean that player in 5 years is going to be better than, the pick at 31. It's just kind of where the industry has set that, and you want to maximize your draft value. The more picks that you get, obviously, the more kicks at the can, the more people you put into a prospect pool, the odds are just proven that you're going to have a better opportunity to develop a player with the more players that you have. So many things happen so quick on draft day. You may want to be able to trade back. You may want to do it, but you have to have a willing partner as well to be able to, give you the assets that you want to move back. at the end of the day, you know, I know what picks we have. Can we gain more picks? We could lose more picks. You know, it really depends on kind of how everything unfolds. And are we going to make the pick? I can't tell you if we're going to make the pick in the third round or not. If there's somebody there that we deem that we like, and with that pick, we'll make the pick. If not, you know, we have opportunity to trade back and recoup, or we give it up. So I mean, I think that's really a decision for day two. Let's get through day one first. I think the game has changed, obviously, you know, just not over the course of 5 years, maybe 10 years. You know, even I don't want to date myself on how old I am, but at the end of the day, you know, from when I played junior and to the time you retire, and then till the time you get back into the game, and you're watching this, the game's changing for sure. I mean, do we want people to take liberty at our players? Absolutely not. I think you form a team of more team toughness, a team mentality where, you know, you're hard to play against. You know, I don't know how many fights there were in the playoffs this year. I do know it was hard fought battles. I think there were guys that were targeting, you know, you gotta target the best players to make life miserable and hard on those players. Does that mean fighting? I think that's kind of been lost in the last little bit. But at the end of the day, you want competitive players. You need competitive players. And I think the definition of competitive is a better term. To maybe that's altered more in the last decade. You know, are you competitive physically? Are you competitive, you know, stick wise, you know, for the puck? Are you competitive for your teammate? Are you competitive in a face-off circle? You know, I think there's various definitions of competitiveness, and I think you need them all. As far as this year being a crapshoot, these kids have been on the radar for a long period of time. You know, we've watched a lot of these kids 2-3 years in advance, not because we're targeting them, because they were that good. They're either playing up in their leagues, or they're playing in various leagues. You know, whether it's in the CHL as you know, a 16-year-old, or they're playing as a 17-year-old in pro hockey over in Europe. You see these kids by default. Nobody is just coming into the radar for us, especially in the first round, for that matter. I think it might get a little bit more trickier, you know, in the midterm rounds, where, you know, there hasn't been a lot more viewings. These, you know, the players that go in rounds, you know, 4 to 7, obviously there's a reason why they're in there, in that slot, sort of say, right now. But that doesn't mean that they can't be a good player in 5 years from now. We have to find those players. It's our responsibility to find. Can't just say it's a 5th round pick or it's a 6th round pick. Every pick that we make, we're excited about, because they bring in an element. They have something that we want, and now it's our job to exploit that. It's to give them every resource possible as a development, to put them in every position, whether it's a strength and conditioning coach, whether it's nutrition. And you know, we got to give these kids the resources for them to get better, and ultimately they have to want to do it as well. I think one of the biggest development plans is character. Do you want to be a player? Are you going to put the time in? You know, that's what separates a lot of players from even playing in the league, or that's what separates a good player from being a great player.